Our first opportunity was with a massive social media giant. And one thing that they needed was warehouse space 3,000 miles away. And we were locked down. No one was going anywhere. They weren't going anywhere, but they needed that node added to the supply chain. They needed visibility into it. So the virtual touring really allowed them and offered them, enhanced visibility into what they were getting into. And then they had the knowledge and the expertise of us understanding like what that warehouse facility can do and what their capabilities are, all the way to the point where they felt confident enough to secure that space during a pandemic without stepping foot in it.
Welcome to the ThinkFreight Podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Werdine. It's my pleasure to have Matt Fain, founder and CEO of PopCapacity. Matt, welcome to ThinkFreight Podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Thomas.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it. I saw you guys were recently voted Best Tech Startup by Food Logistics. Congratulations on that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we were looking forward to that one. We've been nominated a few different years, so it was nice to take it home this year.
I love that. I'm glad you guys were able to take it home. I've heard a lot of good things about you guys and seen a lot of interesting things online. So I wanted to have you on, kind of talk about your journey through freight, how you got to PopCapacity and building that out. So let's just dive right in and let's talk about you and what's your path? How did you get into the freight and logistics space?
Yeah, so I got drug into the space. I was a corporate sales guy working for a big Fortune 500 company and doing corporate sales type stuff, right?
Yeah.
I kind of got bored with it, right? It was a lot of just account management, and I was missing the thrill of the hunt. So a friend of mine was working at a 3PL at the time, I think, and he was doing really, really well with it. And he called me one day and was like, "Hey, man, I know you love sales. This is really easy sales." Little did I know, right? So he convinced me to come on board, and we started a franchise-based logistics company, headquartered down in Tampa, Florida. And I cut my teeth in the freight brokerage side of things, right? We evolved into being more of a managed transportation type entity, not really dialing for dollars, more tactical, strategic type selling. But it got me introduced to just the inner nuances of everything, freight and logistics and tonnage and on-time deliveries and all the things that were important at the time. From there, I exited that company and started an asset-based trucking company. So I wasn't rolling 53 footers across the country. We had box trucks and sprinter vans. We were focused mainly on time-critical, high-value freight. It tended to pay a little bit more than the traditional freight. So we hyper-focused on that, and that honestly led us to PopCapacity, the idea behind PopCapacity. So hauling freight, expedited loads for a large social media giant. They tapped us for warehouse space. Automatically you think of like, okay, if I need to go find something, I'm just going to Google it.
Yeah.
So I took it upon to go to Google, search the web, figure out all the good, the bad, and the ugly that I could find. And it just wasn't a like cut and clean process. So we sought out to fix that, and then we started PopCapacity.
That's really interesting. So let's dive into this a little bit. So you started your first kind of like venture, it sounds like, that you really dove into was the box truck and sprinter asset company. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was the franchise based with the 3PL, but yes, it was the asset based trucking company that ultimately was my first entrepreneurial journey.
How many? Let me ask this: how did you end up getting started on the expedited side? Because if you were doing a lot of the like regular broker things, were you guys brokering traditional 53 freight, or was that all expedited as well?
Yeah, so we started off, I mean, we did a lot of like LVP flooring and did a lot in the building materials world. I came from a building materials company in corporate America, and I knew we were using courier type services all the time, right? That wire didn't get delivered, the pipe didn't show up to the construction site. So it was a hot shot delivery. And I knew the amount of money we were paying for it. So then when I got over to the brokerage side, it was something that I kind of focused on. I still had relationships in that area. But you just realize that, especially in in freight, like it makes a ton of sense if you're going to do volume transactions to have a brokerage, right?
Yeah.
Because that's where you make your money is by volume. On the asset based side, unless you have the capital to go out and buy thousands of trailers and have the equipment readily available, that you're working with a smaller fleet. So it made more sense for us to, reduce the length of haul that we're going, but increase the service level. One thing that I hated as a transportation brokerage was like the I'm sorry it didn't get there,
Yeah.
or not having a real answer. Like I couldn't I can, and I'm sure you can relate to this, but like the amount of times that you get told, hey, the driver will be there in 10 minutes. 10 minutes turns into an hour turns into two turns into the following day.
Yeah.
It's not a very easy conversation. I'm sure there's a realistic reasoning for it, but like we wanted to create a company that there was no variables. Unless I was dead on the side of the road, you were getting your freight no matter what,
Yeah.
and people would pay for that. But it just made a lot more sense with a smaller asset based group. So
Yeah. So when you got into that, how many assets did you guys start with, and how many did you guys end up having? Are you guys still in operation, or how many did you guys have at the end?
no, we sold off all the assets. I think at the end of it, we had two high top sprinter vans, four 26-foot box with lifts.
Nice.
We had a handful of contractors, owner operators that we did work with. But for the most part, it was all driven with our own assets.
That's awesome. And you guys were doing you said a lot of time sensitive, and more, you said you guys were shortening your length of haul. So what was the typical length of haul you guys would do on that time
We would
sensitive?
cover the deep south area, right,
Okay.
going all the way down into Florida, but mainly the deep and southeast area. I think our longest load that we did was from Phoenix, Arizona, on a 2 day. It was a
Wow.
big, large, very expensive, like digital printer or something, and
Wow.
that was our first. That was when we realized that you could charge a lot for this service because we could make the impossible possible,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And all it took was high communication and just visibility. So
I love that. So let's dive into. Let me ask you this. So you've started. So you had the franchise with the brokerage, and then you had the asset company. Were you always entrepreneurial growing up, or was this just something that kind of like fell into your lap and you decided to go down that path? How'd that
no,
come
it's
about?
it's been in my blood since I was
Yeah,
little. I remember peddling candy from the gas station at the common area in middle school, right? Just
I love
just
that.
trying to flip something. It was always in me. And even when I started in corporate America, um, it was a different feeling. Like I knew that I had all this drive and motivation, but you kind of have to box yourself in and like work that corporate
Hmm.
environment, play the right role, and that's how you get the new titles. Um, I'm all about breaking out the ceilings, right? And trying something different to create new opportunities in different areas.
Yeah,
Um, in the corporate environment that I was in, that was just frowned upon. So I had a really good time, made a lot of money doing it, but I just needed a change. I needed something different than, like I said, account management, right? I was a
yeah, I
great
love
account
that.
manager, but it's like I just always dreamed a little bit bigger for sure.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and it's when it kind of is in your blood and in your DNA, and you want to build something. It just kind of takes that time to, I guess, find what you want to build and find the right niche. And it seems like you found and fell right into the right niche, because you guys are doing really really cool things with Pop Capacity. Let's dive into like building tech a little bit. So I think it's really interesting, like what you guys have built, and we'll dive into that in just a minute as well. How did the idea of, like you said, like Pop Capacity, how did that come about? What was like the first kind of like infancy ideas of it? What was it, what it is today, or how has that changed since the idea was
Oh,
born?
it's evolved 10 times since the day that we thought about it, right? So, I mean, it started off with a pain point. I had to
Yeah,
go to Google to go and find a warehouse.
yeah,
If you were to type in warehouse space in Atlanta, Georgia right now, I promise you the first page is not going to be warehouse owner operators. It's going to be other logistics companies who have big budgets. It's going to be commercial
right.
real estate agents. It's going to be self-storage units, right? Google as a procurement tool for logistics has turned in, I mean, there's a lot of ads and sponsorships. The reality is I can pay to be on top of any ad that I want to if I've got enough of this. That's part of it.
Yeah.
So it was challenging. And then by the time you do go and find a warehouse, now you start the work. Series of phone calls, filling out forms, awaiting rates, consolidating the rates, and doing an analysis on which warehouse is the best price, which warehouse is in the best location, which one is going to accommodate what I'm looking for the best, because they're not all the same, right? So we've got 130 million square foot in 5 countries, 3 continents, and not one of them is the exact same. They all have a different thing about them that makes them special. But that's locked behind a phone call and a Google search and all the things that come along with it. So, you start thinking about how you book your vacation rentals, right? You don't call vacation property owners and say, hey, here's my bed and bath situation and can Fido come? Like, that's not a part of it.
Right.
You get in a marketplace, you type in what you're looking for, and the results are what you were looking for, not what was paid for, right? And then you start identifying, you can start filtering it down from there, right? I don't like the decor in this one. I don't feel like this one's a good fit. It's too far away from the beach. That same philosophy should be there for warehouse procurement. And that was the original vision. It's like, okay, create a marketplace that enables an industry visibility into warehouse space. As we evolve, and we have a event coming up in February in Las Vegas that we'll be doing our new product launch. PopCapacity Plus is going to be wildly different than what you see now in just an Airbnb for warehouse space. The reality is that our evolution, we were able to identify that there was so much more value than just warehouses in a marketplace.
Yeah.
All those warehouses have tractor trailer trucks. I always say this. In the warehousing industry, you're a warehouse and you bought a truck, or you're a truck and you bought a warehouse. They just go together, right? They go hand in hand. It makes a lot of sense. But we were only tapping into one side of the capacity. On the other side, at the dock door, there's trucks and trailers available. Capacity that, brokerages are looking for all the time.
Right.
And we had it at our fingertips. It was already in our ecosystem. So, I mean, the reality is some of the largest companies in the world use PopCapacity for warehouse space and trucking. And we didn't solicit the freight business. It was just a natural fit.
That's interesting. So now that you've kind of brought up a lot of that, let's really dive into like what is PopCapacity today? Because it sounds like you were trying to create an Airbnb like environment, an Expedia style environment, a Vrbo style environment for warehousing. How is that? Let me ask this, when did you guys launch PopCapacity?
March 13th, March 11th of 2020. So during the pandemic.
So you guys were right at the very beginning of the pandemic, right as rates started to crash and right before they restarted, like going way back up with demand and capacity crunch. So it seems like you guys came into the market at a pretty good time as, warehousing and that kind of capacity was really needed. So what have you guys, since your launch, what have you guys become today, and how did the pandemic and that like e-commerce rush help or not help you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it helped us a lot. It gave proof to the concept, right? You could digitally procure warehouse space when you're locked down in a pandemic. Our first opportunity was with a massive social media giant. And one thing that they needed was warehouse space 3,000 miles away. And we were locked down. No one was going anywhere. They weren't going anywhere, but they needed that node added to the supply chain. They needed visibility into it. So the virtual touring really allowed them and offered them, enhanced visibility into what they were getting into. And then they had the knowledge and the expertise of us understanding like what that warehouse facility can do and what their capabilities are, all the way to the point where they felt confident enough to secure that space during a pandemic without stepping foot in it. It doesn't ever happen, right? I mean,
Right.
Just it's second nature for people to feel, to question things, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So it was proof of the concept that it could be done and that we could use technology to route the appropriate solution So it allowed that shipper to have that a real conversation, the right conversation, not just a conversation with a warehouse 3,000 miles away, but the warehouse that made the most sense.
Yeah, because like you said, it's when you're looking for, like you said, if you Googled warehousing capacity right now, no matter Houston, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Sacramento, California, you're going to get a lot of these big name companies. You're going to get a lot of the really small public storage options, and they're really not custom tailored to what a shipper might be looking for, what a 3PL might be looking for, what a carrier might be looking for. So it makes a lot of sense that technology can play a part in some of those needs. Now, let me ask you this. So you had mentioned that you guys offer or have like digital um, or virtual tours of the spaces. Has that been since day one, or did it start off like with just pictures and videos? How did that go?
I mean, it was a big part of the launch of our MVP. So when we first had it and when we had our MVP, like that was a part of it. We had to have the
Yeah,
virtual tours.
I love that.
Um, and we went on site to go do those. So during the pandemic, we did step foot in some warehouses, all masked up.
Yeah,
But we had to get the footage because it enabled other people not to have to go do that,
right.
right? At the end of the day, it's four walls, dot doors, racks, and a truck yard. You got to understand some key elements about that facility to figure out if it's going to be a viable fit for what you're looking for. And the virtual tour is a really important element of that. I mean, it allows us to do it. I mean, for God forbid, you could buy a home on Open Door right now, walk through it, see what color
Right.
the toilet seat is, and buy it right then and there if you wanted to.
Yep.
100% virtually, but I can't go rent a warehouse space. I can't go find a 3PL warehouse that I can go use it for 2-3 years and feel confident in the decision I made. So,
Now, how have you guys gone about like finding and procuring some of these, excuse me, some of these warehouses? Like you said, a lot of them are tough to find. It is tougher to find some of these warehousing spaces and opportunities. So, how have you guys gone about and done some of that dirty work to find some of those, hidden gem of a warehouse?
I mean, there's no magic wand that just magically makes warehouses appear, right? We had to do it the old
Come
school
on,
way.
Matt. Come on, Matt. I thought you invented the wand too to find these things.
There's a wand now, but there wasn't a wand in the beginning, right? So we did all the heavy lifting. We did all the
Yeah.
manual grunt work. We made all the phone calls and hand wrote down all the information about them. We got the flyers from them to tell them all about it. But we had to build a platform to place all this information in,
Yeah.
right? Or it wasn't usable for anybody other than us who had it up here and on a piece of paper. So
Right.
we had to create that
There's no one any
marketplace.
good in an Excel spreadsheet somewhere. You got to
That's
have
right.
it. They got to have it easily accessible. So you guys created a marketplace.
We created the marketplace, then we started calling warehouses, giving them this concept of, hey, let me showcase your space in a marketplace, right? It's for
Mm,
free. If you want a virtual tour, there's a cost associated, but it's for free. Um,
mm,
you don't make a lot of money when your first start is with a free service, right? But we wanted to
right.
make sure that the industry and these warehouses knew, like, see the value in it first. And then we start making our money, right? So
Yeah.
um, it was very old school. It was very, uh, putting boots on the ground, driving the cities during the pandemic, flying where we could, and just really doing it the raw, organic way. Now it's different. We're adding like 2.5 million square foot every 2 weeks to our
Wow.
marketplace of just people who understand and who know now, right?
Yeah.
So all that work we did in the beginning and all those hands we shook and babies we kissed, right, was well worth it because it definitely got us on the map and it let people know that we're here and you need and deserve this service, right?
Yeah. Now you had mentioned you guys are in not just the U.S., but you guys are global now. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. My famous slogan is if you can read, type, and you have Wi-Fi, then you can access the marketplace anywhere in the world. And I think some people took that literally. Um, so we've got Windsor, we've got Manchester, we've got Ghana, New Zealand. We've got a lot of places that I did not expect to pop up on the map.
Yeah.
But once again, it's a free cost of doing business. There's no cost of doing the business. You can
Right.
upload your profile for free. You never know when an opportunity is going to land in Windsor, right? We didn't know, but
Yeah.
we knew we wouldn't see any opportunities at all if we didn't have capacity there.
Hmm.
So as we get bigger and as the team gets bigger, there is a focus on, you know, getting out to the other countries and other areas to get the virtual tours done, or maybe even deploying some technology that allows them to do them themselves. There's a lot of cool tech out there. So I feel like maybe the future of pop, there might be some hardware involved to help them get in the marketplace.
Right.
But that's to be determined.
No, that's really interesting. Now, how let me ask you, so in terms of after building out that your platform and being able to show your proof of concept and say, hey, we can provide warehousing, um at your fingertips, basically. Um, how did some of those conversations, like you said, you had a major social media company needing some warehousing. How did some of those conversations go when you were, initially pitching to them or pitching to some other bigger companies? Hey, like warehousing at your fingertips. Like you said, it's never really been done before, aside from a lot of in the residential space with homes and things like that. But
Yep.
it wasn't something very popular in commercial. How did those initial conversations go? Was it easy conversations? Was it more, you're trying to sell us a mythical thing here?
I think anytime that you're introducing something new that something's never used before, there's always going to be some speculation around it. Does it work?
Yeah.
I think for the past several years, there's been a lot of investments that were made, large investments that were made into big hopes and dreams, some of
Right.
which really didn't work out and pan out the way they were supposed to. And we saw that over recent months with big, large closures of large
Yeah.
tech companies, right? It just
Absolutely.
um, so it was challenging, right? Especially coming off of some of that information. You
Yeah.
start People start pressing against it. But what we created wasn't rocket science. We use this technology every single day in our normal everyday lives. We buy our food, we order our shoes, right? We're coming out of the holidays. I guarantee you 80% of all the products that we got, we were delivered to our doorstep and we were procured through a marketplace. We had
Yep.
visibility, we had access, and we could do it all through a marketplace. So it's like when you start explaining it to people like that and you start giving them like relatable things to think about, it's not so crazy to think that you can go find a warehouse through a marketplace. It's not so crazy to think that you can virtual tour it and feel comfortable and go into contract with that warehouse virtually, digitally, in a modern way, right? It's not. If I've got two kids, I literally just had a call with a client about this before this. It's like I've got two children, and if they're blessed to get into the wonderful world of supply chain and logistics, if they're tasked to go source something, the first thing they're going to ask, how can I do it through this thing? Is there an easy, friendly, efficient, technology fueled way to go find that thing? That's the future, right? And I'm not saying I like it, I mean, I love picking up a phone and having a great conversation with somebody,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but I'm quickly identifying that like there's a lot of wasted time with bad conversations. And if any industry at all, this industry, time is money, right? So you start thinking about the amount of time you've had on wasted freight conversation, on wasted warehousing
Hmm.
conversations, just because it wasn't a good fit, right? Maybe you didn't have enough options to choose from. Maybe it was what I could find. Well, that's not it anymore, right? We have endless
Right.
options at our fingertips at all times, and the expectation of this generation to come, is how do I have access to it, right?
Yeah.
So it's and as we evolve and as we start, seeing other areas that we can influence the same algorithmic style approach to procurement, right? I
Hmm.
feel like it could be a game changer for the industry. That, now that when you process your scope of work, and in that scope of work, we identified that it's all palletized merchandise and it's all truckload in, truckload out at high volumes. Well,
Hmm.
guess what? We already know where the origin or destination point is because you're using our
Right.
warehouse. Now we know where your truckloads are moving to, and we know the volumes of velocity. Heck, we're halfway through an RFP at that point. So now it makes a lot of sense for us to tap some of our transportation partners, tap our
Yeah.
warehouse who owns trucking assets, or maybe a brokerage, and say, hey, look, this customer is going in your warehouse already. Doesn't it make sense for them to use your trucking assets too? Does it make sense for them to use your box trucks that you bought for another customer way back when? It does. We're
Yeah.
reconnecting the dots. So as we unveil this new iteration of the marketplace, like we have completely reimagined logistics procurement, not just
Mm.
warehouse procurement. That was the easy, right?
Right.
Now, how do I take that scope of work and apply it to the entire industry? And how do I offer prescribed solutions, not just solutions that you fielded a cold call from the
Right.
14th trucking brokerage that day, right?
Right.
How you can buy it when you want it, much like on social media, and I love this analogy because it really is. You can imagine it when you're on LinkedIn, right? I think you and I connected on LinkedIn.
We did. Yeah.
We connected because we have similar things that we're interested in, whether it be companies we worked for, industries we followed, pages, people, whatever it may be. All that information was data. The
Mm.
data connected, your data connected with my data and said, hey, you guys should meet. And then we
Yeah.
found an opportunity to be on this podcast. So now imagine a world where a warehouse scope of work and that data there also aligns with some freight data that's needed. And it makes sense to introduce that opportunity
Mm.
to that partner. You didn't come to it for warehousing, or you didn't come to us for freight. You didn't come to us for an API into Shopify or an EDI into SAP. You came to us for a warehouse, but we also have other things. And that's why it was important for us to introduce this Pop Capacity Plus.
Yeah.
Same Pop Capacity plus some, right? It's
I love
just we're aggregating all the value added solutions that we've already identified and making sure
that.
everyone knows about it.
Now you said Pop Capacity Plus will be coming in February. Is that correct?
Yep.
When is that set to debut? Are you guys debuting? When are you guys doing that?
We're gonna a shameless plug here. So we'll be at the Manifest Show event in Las Vegas.
Amazing. We'll be
Um,
there too.
we'll be on the innovation stage on the last day to kind of unveil the new product and all the coolness about it. We'll have some press and some stuff working up to that, but yeah, we're really excited about it. So it'll be February 7th, I believe that is.
Very nice. That's really wonderful. I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to come and watch that event live. So let me ask you. As we kind of wrap up here, Matt, who are you guys? Who are you guys for? Are you guys for the smallest shipper? That just needs some warehousing capacity for their board games they're shipping, or are you or is there a limit? Or a capacity you need to be shipping or moving to be in the pop capacity network.
It doesn't matter. I know this term is used way too much in this industry, but we are very agnostic. We can bring in one pallet for 24 hours or 10,000 pallet for 10 years.
Mm,
We've got it. We've got the solution for any application. And the only reason that happened is because for 24 months, all we did were heads down finding warehouse and warehouse solutions.
yeah,
So we found dark stores, we found small fulfillment centers, we found people that, own the building and don't really care to make a ton of money, just need to pay the cost of, taxes. We've got some
right.
really unique situations where it's like we know where the opportunity is going to lie. If it's a single pallet, then you're not going to put it into a big, huge 3PL, multinational 3PL. There's minimums, there's all the things. But if you have a multi-year deal in multiple locations, then it might behoove you to talk to some of those big national 3PLs because now they give you the bandwidth, the infrastructure, and you get the cost break if you have volumes, right? And we'll sign a long term. So we're truly industry agnostic. So from emerging SMBs to large enterprise software companies,
That's
we
great.
have a little bit for everybody.
That's really great. And you mentioned something that was kind of interesting, and just want to touch on. Are you guys utilizing any micro fulfillment centers? I've been very but really interested in those lately. So I've been curious, and when you said that, I wanted to see if you guys are utilizing any micro fulfillment centers as well.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of micro fulfillment centers in our network.
Mm,
So we've got automated with robots in multiple markets under the same WMS. We've got some standalone ones that operate auto store. Um, and then, we've got some cool partnerships with like High Robotics and coming up,
mm.
Robust AI is going to be another one that we're partnering with.
Oh, that's cool.
So just to, I mean, as we evolve as an industry, access to these, automation and robotics style solutions is super important. Especially if we can implement it into one of our warehouses, it just makes our warehouse ecosystem a little bit better. But yeah, we've got smart warehouses. We have, mini fulfillment centers. We've got dark stores. So areas in a mall that shut down and they're being repurposed into being a fulfillment center. So we've got those too. And
Interesting.
those are typically in denser populated areas.
Yeah.
Paramus, New Jersey is one area. It is literally a location at a mall that has a single dock door, but they're running fulfillment out of it. They're running, same day, last mile, and they're doing a really good job at it.
What a great way to revitalize and reutilize such a massive space, right? And they're generally in, like you said, in very densely populated areas. So you can utilize those spaces. Man, that's really smart because you can, like you said, you can get into that like same day or even 2 hour, 3 hour fulfillment if you're able to like you said in those some of those areas be able to so like have those really small mall style fulfillment centers or X malls. That's really awesome.
Yep, it's just repurposing,
Yeah.
an industrial space that's going to get torn down or something,
Right.
right? And usually you can get a really good cost on it too, a really good price because no one's using it, no one wants it. So repurposing into something that you can actually use is super cool. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm happy to have that solution in the marketplace. And I mean, we've got all sorts of stuff. Like I don't know if you're familiar with Saltbox, but they're a
Yeah.
kind of like a WeWork, but for warehousing. So they
Oh
enable
yeah.
you to do your warehousing all together with a big group of people that you can network with, but they have the infrastructure to do distribution. Really
Hmm.
cool concept. They're exploding, but there's something that like if you're SMB and you're not ready to go to a fully outsourced warehouse environment yet.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We have this kind of capacity for you, and you can go in and do your own thing. So, and you'll see at the event too, our partnerships, we're going to be doing a lot of partnership announcements, and these partners are going to help us feed our marketplace. So not only do we have all these solutions from our warehouses, trucks, trailers, chassis, integrations, our partnerships are super cool. We've got real estate partnerships that
Mm.
can stand up buildings and can help you with leases. We've got bill pay audit partnerships that can help you optimize your parcel spend. High robotics, I mentioned them earlier. Robust AI, it's a
Yeah.
cart style AMR. I mean, we've got a lot of cool different solutions that we're introducing to a marketplace. The way I like to describe this is, do you have Amazon Prime?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So when you bought Amazon Prime, you got it for fast free shipping,
Yep.
period. You didn't get
Yep.
it for Amazon Music. You didn't get
Nope.
it to watch Thursday Night Football on Prime Video.
Nope.
But yet you use those services out of convenience because it made sense for
Absolutely.
you to use those services.
Oh, of course.
So PopCapacity, our marketplace for warehouse space, was your Prime membership. Now you have access to trucking, integrations, automation, robotics, optimization without changing your subscription price, right? It just made
That's
sense.
amazing.
So that's the future of pop, and I'm super excited about, it's super stressful and a full anxiety coming up to the product launch, but I'm so excited to unveil it to the community for sure.
Matt, I'm really excited for you guys to unveil that as well. I'm excited to be there and share you guys on. I was really excited, really exciting times. Really looking forward to see how that goes. Matt, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, sharing your story and what Pop Capacity is. If people want to check you guys out, where can they find you and Pop Capacity online?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're on LinkedIn, so you can follow, at Pop Capacity. Actually, it's at Pop Capacity on all social channels. We have the heaviest presence on LinkedIn. A lot of content gets pushed through there. And then you can always hit me up. I'm going to kill myself for doing this, but matt@popcapacity.com. That's my direct email. You can hit me up for anything. Always looking to have great conversations with great people. So
that's awesome. And make sure you guys check out Matt and Pop Capacity. We'll have all the links in the comments or in the show notes. If you guys like today's podcast, make sure you do give it a like and review or give us 5 stars. It helps us out a ton. And don't forget to check out our newsletters. Those do drop on Monday and Wednesday, thinkfreight.io. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode.